Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CEO Podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind building and scaling a business. Each episode, we sit down with CEOs, founders, and leaders to uncover hard-won lessons in leadership, systems, and team building. Listen in each week to learn directly from real business leaders who have been in your shoes, had success, made the mistakes, and all of the messiness that comes with building a business. If you're ready to learn from real-world leaders and gain insights you can apply today, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Hey, Don. Nice to see you.
Good morning. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining, man. Thanks for your time. So today's guest is Don Brodt, an experienced healthcare leader and the CEO of Regal Care. Regal Care operates senior care facilities focused on delivering high-quality, patient-centered care. In an industry that actually never sleeps, they're always on, which we'll talk more about. Don leads a business that's 24/7, which I think which is unique, right?
Right.
And balances the demand of really critical clinical care, compliance, staffing, and everything that goes along with it. And now, thinking about multiple locations. But beyond the operations of Regal Care, it stands out, the leading with purpose. It's not just managing buildings and company. It's an environment that supports healing and independence and dignity for those people at a very vulnerable point in their life. So in this episode, we're going to dig into that, what it takes to grow and scale in a really, really demanding industry, and how Don leads under pressure and manages the tension between being always on and leading and having a personal life as well. So Don, great to have you here, man. Thank you so much. Let's jump in.
Yeah,
so before I ask you all the questions that I have, maybe just tell the audience, tell us about Regal Care. Tell us what you're doing and tell us about Regal Care as a business.
Yeah. So obviously as we age, everyone would love to be healthy until they die at home in their own bed. And you just go to sleep one day and don't wake up. Unfortunately, most people will need some level of care. If you just need a little care, maybe your family can help you. But some people, whether they get dementia or Alzheimer's, whether they have physical problems, they end up turning to a more professional care just to provide the best care they can get, have the highest quality of life they can get. So in California, there's actually a business model that's very common. People will use a residential home, a normal single-family home, and convert it into a business that can take care of up to 6 people. Past 6, you need a whole different level of licensing. Basically, you have to get, neighborhood approval. And not many neighbors really are excited to have a business in their neighborhood. Oddly enough, I think we're the good house in the neighborhood. It's not exactly a college fraternity. It's a home full of old folks. So we're very quiet. We keep an eye on things. The old folks are always looking out the window. They can tell you who every person is that walks with a dog down the street. They're really keeping an eye on place. But it's very common to set yourself at 6 people and then grow from there. So.
Okay. And Don, how did you take us back? Like, how did you get into this business? How did you get into senior care and what drew you there?
Yeah, my background is not medical. Same for my wife. We're not doctors, nurses, not CNAs, not medical assistants. My background is actually general construction. With that, we found that one, it was easy for me to work on the business, but it was hard to get my wife involved. And then I was always worried, what if I just step off a curb wrong and tweak my back and can't do this kind of work anymore? We wanted to find a business we could do together. It wasn't dependent on me physically. More than that, I wanted to find a business that made a real impact in people's lives. I've done many things before where I could do the work, I could not do the work. Life goes on. It doesn't really matter. Whereas knowing that with senior care, when you need someone to take care of your mother, you really need it. This is not an optional thing. And knowing that we're actually making a difference in people's lives, that does bring us a lot of peace, that does drive us and keep us going, that, hey, without someone taking care of these people, there would be a hole in their life. So we love knowing that we are making a difference.
It's meaningful. Yeah, for sure. That's a big switch, man. Going from construction to senior care.
Yeah, but
Uh,
that being my background, it has allowed me to make nicer homes
yeah.
because the average person might, the average senior care home operator, they might look at a bathroom and say, "Well, there's no way we can make this a wheelchair-friendly shower." I look at it and say, "Wow, it's just another project."
Mm,
I already have all that background knowledge. If I need to jump in there and do it myself to save a few bucks, I can. Um, just being able to make modifications to the home, even maintenance to the home, like people using wheelchairs, walkers all the time, it's abusive on the home, and it doesn't
mm,
take long for the home to start looking a little ratty. So having enough construction knowledge that you can go in and fix little things that come up.
yeah.
Our staff will wear out a light switch. I didn't know you could wear out light switches. They can wear out a light switch in 10, 15 years. But because it's under heavy commercial use, people are using the house all day, every day, 24 hours a day. Things get worn out. So having a construction background, it does allow us just to maintain a better home as well. So.
That's super interesting. I think I on a personal level, I didn't grow up with
Yeah.
somebody that was handy in the home, so I lack all of those skills. I lack everything handy, and it's such a detriment. Like growing up and having those skills as a individual homeowner, or if you have rental units, it's so valuable. You can save so much money, right?
Yeah. Or even just knowing, I mean, you can still hire people, but just knowing if they're trying to rip you off or not,
Yeah, yeah.
that makes a difference.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. Okay. So what was fascinating when we were talking before, just in the pre-call, talking about how this is a 24/7 business, right? Like, you going on
Absolutely.
vacation stuff or sleeping stuff because your business is just constantly operating. So let's talk about that. Like, what are the biggest operational challenges you face day to day? And like, how do you manage just being on all the time?
Right. I mean, we set it up to where there are staff awake 24 hours a day. There are many small homes. The staff might actually nap at night or sleep. But we set it up to where staff are awake 24 hours a day. Part of that is just providing the care that people need. So, if your mother's in our home and she likes to get up 2 or 3 times at night to go use the bathroom, we don't want her to be unsupervised. We don't want to drug her and make her sleep with some kind of chemical restraint, a sleeping pill. We want the staff to be awake. So going through the work to have 24-hour staff, it does cost us more money, but that is the better way to do it. Even if your staff is sleeping, you should still really be paying them if they're on duty. So if I'm going to have to pay them, I might as well schedule it so they have to stay awake. So that does take pressure off of me, but absolutely, it's a 24-hour a day job every day of the year. It doesn't matter if it's midnight on Christmas Eve. We're still there providing care. There is no like, oh, well, it's Thanksgiving, so all the staff want to have the day off. If you ran a local accounting business, you could take a day off for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to do that. If you ran a local accounting business, you could close for a week if everyone got COVID. If you had a gas station, you could close for a week. Maybe not smart, but you can do it. Whereas we're taking care of human beings. We can't leave them there. They're not boxes. They don't just stay still if you leave them. They need someone to watch over them. And if they need assistance, that's what we're there for, to help them with anything they need.
Yeah.
So with that, like being in a 24-hour business, just building out a team to help you. Everyone understands that even the boss has to sleep. So building out the team and making sure the team is adequately trained to deal with situations that come up. Sometimes I still get phone calls in the middle of the night, but most of the time they can handle whatever happens.
Yeah. What is that? What is the requirement of being always on and having to organize with your team, the scheduling, and I'm thinking through like, okay, and now you have somebody's mom or dad calling, or sorry, their kids calling because mom and dad are in the home. So you have to be able to like field that. How does that impact what you require from your team in terms of communication and I guess scheduling and organization? Like you probably have to dial that up another notch.
Right. That's a really good question, because I always say taking care of seniors is easy. We know how to do that. dealing with families is altogether different. So I've seen it all with seniors, but every family is different. Some families, some people may not have much family. One of our first residents, she had a great niece that was her kind of executor. She didn't have any kids of her own. Her husband had already passed away, so even her niece had passed away. It was her great niece that was her decision maker. So when there's only one decision maker, it really makes it pretty simple. When there's 4 or 5 people that all think they're the decision maker, it can get difficult because suddenly, one sibling comes up and says, I think, dad should get X, Y, Z. And somebody else comes up, I think he should get A, B, C. Well, let's talk this through. Sometimes you end up being sort of a family counselor, like, hey, you guys all need to sit down together and figure out, what does dad need? And then we'll go along with the plan. But we get stuck in the middle of family drama more than you would think.
I could see that for sure. Yeah. Right. Because it's such, you mentioned like that your loved one is at such a vulnerable part in their life. And now you feel the responsibility to take care of them, but now they're passing that off to you. So they're trusting you to take care of them. Right. So that's really sensitive.
Yeah. And there's unfortunately, there's a certain amount of guilt involved in a lot of people's view of sending their mom or dad to a facility. They feel bad that they can't keep them at home. And so I find people will sometimes give hyper focus on the things they understand, even though those things are not really important. So I always explain to new customers, we're primarily a caregiving business, that we also do other things. So we do people's laundry. We focus on care. The care needs are, your physical needs, maybe giving the medication that the doctor prescribes, making sure that you get enough food to eat. But then, at night, the night staff can also do laundry while they're working. I've had so many families come and say, well, I'd like the laundry done a little bit differently. I would do this and this and this if it were my house. Look, I can only micromanage the staff so much. If there's a care need, if there's a safety issue, I will address it. You think that it's not good enough to separate laundry into lights and darks. We also need to do every pastel color. Look, it's just laundry. If you really want the laundry done a special way, we don't specialize in laundry. You could hire a laundry business and probably get pretty bad care. You hired a care business and you get pretty good laundry service, but people, they hyper focus on the things they can understand.
Yeah. That makes sense. I can imagine that being tough, and I can certainly understand the need to play the role of the counselor. Yeah. So I imagine with your business, you're having to deal with many different things like regulations or regulatory changes, but also like staffing's got to be super tough, right? You need to be, I would imagine, very selective with the staff that you bring in. How do you deal with all of those different moving pieces? Is that a challenge, or is it pretty seamless at this point?
It can go pretty well. The regulatory burdens, during the COVID season, we would get new regulations released every day sometimes. They would be changing rules every day. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on? How can I even read all the regulations, much less have time to update the staff and change our policies? Like, it was insane. Generally speaking, I understand why most of the regulations are there, and I think they are there to keep people safe, and we have no problem complying with them. They're all pretty common sense items that you would need to do. Are they a burden sometimes? Yeah, the regulations can be a burden. But if they make sense and I understand them, hey, let's do this. We're here to provide care for people. I've also seen things before that we have a nice garden at one of the homes. And I've had an inspector come and say, well, you're not going to let people eat from the garden, are you? Yes, sometimes we eat from the garden. It's okay. And they said, well, you could get E. coli that way. You could get E. coli at a fast food restaurant. You could get E. coli from a bag of lettuce at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Life happens, that doesn't mean we can't eat tomatoes from the backyard, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
The other thing with staff is anytime I'm interviewing staff, especially if they haven't done a lot of caregiving, I really emphasize that you have to have compassion. You have to have care. I can teach you all the skills. I could teach anyone to open the computer, log in, and say, okay, we're giving this medication at this time. This person likes to wake up at this time. This person likes to go to the bathroom at this time. I can teach anyone the skills, but I can't teach you to care. Yep. Ultimately, if you don't care, I tell all new applicants, all new staff, like, you might start doing it for the money, but if you don't learn to love the people, it's not going to be worth the money. I mean, you can go get a job at In-N-Out and make money. You have to learn to love the people. And if that doesn't come, you're not going to be a long-term employee.
I couldn't agree more. I think I apply that to hiring in general, because you can oftentimes, most of the time, teach the right skills. I think oftentimes people will try to hire for their experience and the skills instead of those other attributes of the person. Like, the thing you want is, do they care? Are they passionate about the work? If we're talking about on a business side, like, are they hungry? Are they ambitious? Are they creative? Are they smart? Can they actually, are they going to be a good team player? Are they going to fit in the culture? Not, do they have 10 years of experience here? Right? Yeah. Like, all those other things are so important to make sure that they're the right fit for your company. And sometimes people lean too heavy on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, you look for somebody that's an expert at Microsoft Office. Okay, that's great. I mean, somebody has good business skills, but maybe not an expert at Microsoft Office. You can teach that to them. You could get them a helper. You could do any number of things. Yeah. Ultimately, what is the goal? Whether it's good business skills, somebody who really cares about the job, what is the goal? Focus on what's important. Some things can be taught, some things can't. Focus on the things that can't be taught.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. All right. I'm going to jump around for a little bit, because you just said, what's the goal, which is so MAP. And when we talked earlier, you said that you've been to MAP, you've been to the workshop. Yeah. When was that? How many years ago?
I think it was shortly after COVID. So probably 2021, maybe about 4 years ago. Yeah.
All right. Tell me about your workshop experience. How did you find it to be? Did you find value? Do you still use any of the MAP principles today?
Yeah, I mean, I found it valuable, and I did enjoy it in general as well. One of the takeaways is, and I'm going to speak loosely, make a plan and go for it. Don't be afraid to advance your business, your career. Make a plan. Maybe put some research into it, make it a good plan, but go for it. Don't get straddled with fear, because the overarching idea behind MAP is, okay, let's identify issues, talk through them, work through them, and move on. Don't get burdened down. Don't get stuck with something. Just keep moving. So that's something I've struggled with in the past. I'd like to think I'm doing pretty good with it right now, but it's something that can always creep up. You think, oh, well, I'm not sure what to do. Well, you got to deal with this. You can't just ignore it. If you need to research it, if you need to get some advisors, identify the problem and attack the problem. Get it done.
Yep. It's not going to go away on its own. Yeah. It's always a favorite of people that go through the MAP program is what we call the team consult. Whenever we introduce MAP to a new organization, it seems that teams really love it just because it's so collaborative. You state the problem, you attack it for 10, 15 minutes. You have so many it's basically just a great structured brainstorming session. And then at the end, you pick those action items and you go attack the problem, right? It's just a clear way to get from A to B. Well, that's great. So let's talk about Regal Care with, growth. You had mentioned to me that you're looking at another location. How do you decide when to make that jump, when to, invest in an additional location and when to pursue growth versus just maintaining and using the existing?
Yeah. Part of it is, a big part of our industry is we're using real estate. It's not, we're not renting a unit in a strip mall. We can't do remote work. We're really using a house, and the house is fairly heavily modified, so it's hard to rent a home. A big thing that slows us with growth is, hey, real estate in Southern California is expensive. So, when is a good time to buy a house? Some would say always, others say never. So trying to figure out, like, okay, let's put together some capital. And I've had many people approach me saying, hey, I'll be your partner. We've really managed to do this so far without partners. Part of that is I wouldn't want to partner with anyone who sees this as a passive business. If they think, oh, you can just sit back and throw the money in and you just make money. No, it's work. It's not a passive business. We're not simply a landlord for people. Just managing staff 24 hours a day, like a passive investor wouldn't understand how much work you're doing there. So we've managed to do it on our own. As far as when to expand, with that question we hit earlier, like, don't be afraid to move forward. There have been at least 4 or 5 homes I can remember in the last 10 years that a special opportunity came up to buy 4 or 5 different homes. And for one reason or another, I got nervous. I said, no, that's not a good deal. They say they're giving us a deal, but it doesn't look like a deal to me. I know better. Real estate's going to change. I should have bought every one. But finally just deciding, you know what? Don't get bogged down on finding the best real estate deal or the best business investment. The main thing is, if you need this investment to grow your business, go pick something and do it. If you pay 10% too much, it's okay. Yeah. If it's a solid plan, if the numbers support the investment, do it. And 5 years from now, you'll be glad.
Yeah. So. That's a great point. Why do you think that is? Is that just your nature? Be more conservative? Is that just, do you think people are just...
I'm very financially conservative, and, houses in Southern California, they're $1 million investment. It's like, oh, wow. Like, this is not, hey, should we buy another car or not? It's a big commitment, and figuring out, like, all right, are we really going to do this right now? It's nerve-wracking to me. I've gotten better the last couple of years, but when I was a little bit younger, it was very scary. Like, should we buy another property right now? Wow, then I'm committed to this much bills every month. I've got to make sure enough income comes in, pay the mortgage, the property tax, the property insurance. That's not even counting all the staff. You've got all the utilities. Yeah. So suddenly you've got a lot of outflow every month, and you need to make sure that the inflow keeps up.
Yep. So, how do you go about making those decisions? Do you have, you're on your way to a board meeting soon. Do you have a board? Do you have a large executive team and you collaborate? How do you go about those decisions?
Yeah, we have a pretty small team. Oddly enough, I have a sort of counselor in my life that was a MAP salesperson for decades.
Okay.
So we actually do rely on him a lot, and he would travel all over LA to consult with businesses and kind of get them to join the MAP program. So I do lean on him and say, hey, this is the opportunity we have. What do you think? What are the risks here? And that is really helpful, but it's a pretty small team of people that really make the decisions. And we have learned the industry well. I think we've had our first home since 2010. Or no, since 2015. So we've had our first home for about 10 years. Taking time to learn the industry and being very comfortable with the industry. If you were growing it and had a new home every 2 years, so that in 10 years you had 5 homes, I think you would struggle with some of the basics. Whereas doing one home for 10 years, because we didn't learn it from someone. We really went into this and taught ourselves. So being able to manage one home for 10 years and get it really dialed in has allowed us to have a firm understanding of what's important, as far as providing the best care for people.
Yeah. Why do you think scaling to 5 homes in 10 years would create those challenges? You just wouldn't have like the operating procedures in place, or like to have consistency across the homes, or what would fall apart?
those sudden quick decisions you have to make. Something comes up, and sometimes you have to very quickly decide, all right, do I need to fire the staff right now, or do we need to just sort of work through this? Something comes up and you get a call in the middle of the night. Hey, this is the issue. What should we do? Like, you're making quick decisions all the time. And if you haven't had enough experience to kind of learn to navigate those, and then suddenly you're doing it a lot more often because with more homes, more decisions come, it's going to be tough. Part of what we go through with our staff is that someone needs to be there. Is there any perfect staff member? No, I'm not perfect either. I'm not a perfect business owner. No one's perfect. I can't expect perfection from my staff. But do they provide good care? You know, if a staff member provides great care, but they're not as good at the laundry, can we work through that? Yeah, let's work through it, because ultimately we care about good care. If a staff member is consistent in showing up, that's very important. If somebody is frequently calling out, this is a big deal for us. Someone has to be there. It's not like there's a team of 10 staff members during the day and one person's missing. It's no problem. No, there's normally 2 staff during the day. If one person calls out, your coworker is working alone, or I go in to fill in. I might call around to the other staff, say, hey, who's not busy today? Who wants to make a little extra money? But it can be tough. You know, you've got to find a way to make sure that you're getting your tasks done every day.
So it's a small team. Are there team leads, or is there like somebody that oversees a shift or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, generally there's a more experienced and less experienced person. We haven't really given them titles, but right now we have just opened a second home this year. We're opening a third home this year as well. With that ability, I think at that point we probably will have, you know, just a kind of a full-time manager just running around between the different homes, making sure things are dialed in. It's kind of tough to afford a manager with just one house, but with 3 homes, I think it's very realistic to do that. And they will be able to just focus on reinforcing the policies we already have and making sure things are being done right.
Yeah. I'm sure you need consistency across those different homes that you have to make sure the standard of care is there.
Right.
When you're hiring for these different locations, what are the main things you're looking for when you're, hiring somebody to work in these homes?
Yeah. I'm looking for what's realistic. When I say what's realistic, I've had people apply, they live an hour away. You don't want to drive an hour for a job like this. I'm looking for the ability to speak, read, and write English. Do you have to be a native English speaker? Not at all. Many are not native English speakers. But can you read a prescription bottle and understand what it says? That's important. Can you, when a nurse comes and gives instructions and says, oh, we want to make this change, I'd like you to alter their care in this way, can you understand that? When a family comes and says, hey, we're concerned that Dad says he'd like to go out for a walk every day. Can you take him out for a walk every day? Do the staff really understand that? So it is part of the industry that we are using a lot of people that learned English as a second language. We need to make sure they understand enough English. We need to, because we're a small team, we need people that are willing to cook. Some people don't know how to boil an egg. So I can teach you to cook. Once again, as long as you have this innate compassion, I can teach you to cook. That's not a problem. But there's got to be a willingness to learn. If you don't want to learn anything, it's very hard to teach. You say, oh, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to listen to you. Well, I am your employer. So you kind of do need to listen to me. And we cook things the way we do for a particular reason. We have the schedule set up the way we do for a particular reason. We kind of have this dialed in, and we'd like you to go along with the program. Does everybody have an off day? Sure. But ultimately, is the staff member going to be teachable? We can work with it.
Yeah, you mentioned the willingness to learn. I think that's so important, right? Like, the not having the mindset of I know everything, that willingness to, because everything's changing, whether you're in care or business or whatever, things are evolving and changing all the time. And the people that I know that are super successful just always want to learn more stuff. They're always trying to improve. So those are the types of folks I want on my team. And I actually asked those interview questions. I asked those questions in the interview. Tell me about something you've learned recently. Tell me where you go for more information. And you can really tell whether somebody is actively trying to improve or they're just trying to make stuff up on the fly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One interview question that sticks out in my mind, if people have caregiving experience, I like to ask, tell me about a difficult situation you had with a senior you were providing care for, and how'd you overcome that? And I've had more than a few people respond and say, oh no, I never struggled with it. There's no difficulties. Can't think of any time I've ever had a problem that I had to overcome. Okay, you're not at least going to try to make up an answer? Because I can tell you struggles I've had. When someone is confused, I mean, if you've been around people with dementia or Alzheimer's, sometimes they just get confused about stuff. And it can be hard on us as the caregivers. It can be hard on us even emotionally. Somebody every 5 minutes, they're asking, oh, where's my son? Where's my husband? Your husband's been dead 20 years, but I can't keep telling you that because it's like tearing open the wound all over again. So as a caregiver, you get just emotionally drained by constant confusion, but you learn not to take it personal. That's the disease. It's not the person. The person wouldn't do that, but their body has a disease and they're confused. Like we just have to work through those things. And sometimes you tell your coworker, hey, I'm going to go to the other room for a minute. I'm going to focus on some other task for a few minutes. You jump in over here. Kind of take turns when you need to. So.
That's rough. That would be rough. I can't imagine. So do you have to give your staff training on like how to handle those types of situations, like during the onboarding or throughout?
So a lot of it is trained. We are under a certain amount of state regulations, so we have to provide 40 hours of training within the first month of employment. Past that, there is better training. I mean, the state minimum is obviously nice, but there are other curriculums that we use just to focus on how to provide the best care, how to let people live with dignity. Something very simple. If you walk up to someone sitting down at a table, eating their food or not eating, you could stand over them and just look down and talk to them, or you can kneel down and look at them eye to eye. It makes a lot of difference to the person. So if they're already confused or in a bad mood, a lot of these people, their bodies are declining. They're in pain all the time.
Yeah.
You're in pain, you're not in a good mood, you're confused. It makes a big difference to get down eye to eye and talk to somebody as opposed to just standing over them and giving them instructions. So that kind of training, just, hey, get down and talk to them eye to eye. Have a conversation. Don't just give a command. Let them understand this is good for you. You should eat breakfast today. It's good for you to eat breakfast. Don't just say, here's your food, eat it. They're not your children. You can't just command them around. They are adult human beings. So
that would be hard. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, just making sure to keep the humanity in it. So one of the questions we ask entrepreneurs on here a lot is just like learning from tough lessons or mistakes. Is there anything that comes to mind? Like what's a tough lesson or mistake you made along the way that others should watch out for that helped you? Like, man, I really learned a lot when I went through that.
Right. We already discussed it actually, just being stuck with fear. Like when an opportunity came along to expand the business saying, I'm not sure. Don't make a plan. If you want to expand the business, decide, is this a good opportunity or not? Don't be stuck with fear. Just research it. If you need to have a team of people to talk to, go out and find yourself a former MAP salesperson.
That's a good strategy.
There are a few of those. But don't get stuck with fear. Just make a decision and stand by your decision. Don't lose sleep over it, saying, "Oh, well, I researched it and I'm still not sure." You did the best you could. Move on.
Okay.
Don't just sit there with fear. Research it, make the plan, and execute the plan. That's the big life lesson I've learned. So.
Okay, I like that. One of the things we've been talking about recently was, even if you take that plunge and you execute that plan and it doesn't work out, well, most of the time you can peel it back, right? You can reverse it and you learn, and at least you took it and now you have that data and say, okay, that didn't work. What would work? What should we do instead? But if you never make that plunge, you never take that plunge, you never take that chance, you're not going to have enough data to understand, right? And you're always going to be thinking about it. So
yeah, and just rest in knowing, even if it doesn't work out, you did make a calculated decision. You made the best decision you could with the information you had at the time.
Yep.
That's all you can do.
Yep. Okay. And last question for you is, for the other entrepreneurs or leaders or managers listening to this podcast, and maybe they're in a demanding role, like at Regal Care, or maybe not. What's one thing that's helped you along the way, like helping keeping the team aligned, helping you to stay focused, helping you to do your job?
I think just loyalty as far as the team goes. Loyalty to the staff. They're just like you or I. They have issues that come up in their lives, and when a staff member comes and says, "Hey, my grandfather is sick. I need to take a few days off to take care of my grandfather too." Hey, let's work through them with this. Like, I want to treat you like a member of my own family. You're not here just for me to like command over you. Being loyal to the staff in the sense that, when they have an issue, I want to be part of their solution. In the same way, loyal to the staff in that when a family brings a concern to me, I go and talk to the staff before just assuming the family was being 100% truthful. I'm sure the family would never intentionally lie about a staff member, but maybe they misread a situation. So loyalty to the staff, that has helped a lot because they're loyal back to me. We're able to have a much stronger partnership in the goal being, let's provide good care. Developing that relationship with the staff makes all the difference, in my opinion.
That's a really good point. And I can see that, right, where you're sort of playing that mediator role, trying to uncover what happened. That's a really good point. All right, Don, well, this has been great. I really appreciate you spending the time with us and sharing it with us and the audience. Before we wrap, where can people go to learn more about you or Regal Care? Or connect with you directly?
Yeah, we have our website is regalcare.org. Should be updated any day now, but you can also contact me, Don, D-O-N, at regalcare.org. But we're always happy to talk people through what good care means. Even if they're not in the local area, even when our home is full, I still want to talk people through the decision-making process. These homes have a bad reputation for a reason. A lot of them are bad. So I like to talk people through, like, what should you look for when you go somewhere? A lot of people get seduced at the big facilities. They get seduced by, wow, everything was done really well from a design standpoint, and the furniture is very pretty. The staff wear matching uniforms. Okay, that's all neat, but what's the staff ratio? I think I just heard somebody tell me this week at a big facility, big meaning like 100 people, there was one caregiver for 22 residents. Imagine if you were taking care of 22 people. Like, let's take the simplest thing. Put on shoes. How long would it take you to put shoes on 22 people? It seems so minuscule, but if you're looking for care, you need to know what to look for. I'm always happy to talk people through that, whether they're going to be a client of mine or not. I want them to find good care for their loved one. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. I as my parents continue to age, I may have to reach out to you because I know nothing about this. And so I will be one of those people not knowing what to look for.
Yeah, we're happy to help. So,
all right. Well, thank you, Don. We really appreciate it, and have a great day. Everybody, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time.